1995?
Oops.
Days of Elijah.
Yes, yes.
Surely these are the days of
Yeah,
Elijah.
yeah. I know, yeah, I know. I mean, that's my wife, I have to say this, my wife calls me a one-hit wonder. And
But there have been so many.
I know, I keep telling her that. But she makes she enjoys keeping me humble. And but that was the song, I think, above all other songs that actually changed, a lot of my life and a lot of what I did and the ministry that I have. So it was quite a song actually, and still today.
Well, here's some fun, because I said, you are familiar with the actions.
Yes,
with
I am.
church congregations hopping up and down, riding on
That's
horses.
right, that's right.
And tell us where that happened.
Well, apparently now, to the best of my ability, there's a family up in Barrie.
Barrie, Ontario.
Barrie, Ontario, and they tell me that it was their idea to create and to make up for the youth of their church the actions that go along with the song. And I think they've just done them in so many places. And things go viral these days, of course. And so people have picked it up. And I've been in different parts of the United States and, in fact, different parts of the world. And people will say to me, hey, our kids do actions to that song. Have you ever seen them? And there they are, the same writing and et cetera.
It's terrific.
It is. It's really good. And actually, someone asked me, do you think it affects the gravitas of the song, or that it detracts
Takes
from it?
something away from it.
Do you know what? I mean, out of the mouths of babes and children, you bring forth perfect praise. To me, it's a delight to see it. And I'm sure it gladdens God's heart as well. Gladdens my heart, for sure. So
Well, this is such a rich, the words are so rich. And to read that your background was Methodist.
Yes, that's right.
But you had some really deep into the word brethren roots
Yes,
mixing
that's
in
exactly
there
right.
too.
That's it.
What was in your heart as
Yeah.
you wrote these profound lyrics?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the full story is I actually was watching television, would you believe? Which
No.
is, just shows you how much God can use it. And I was watching a review at the end of the year, which was 1994. That's just before the year where the song then was written. And in 1994, we forget what happens in years, but 1994 was the year of the Rwandan tragedy, where I think it was
people.
1 million people
Genocide.
in 6 weeks killed. And I was watching this program unfold about all the funny things that happened that year, the serious things, the political things, and sporting things. And in the middle of this melee of events was the Rwandan tragedy. And I'm watching it, and I actually said to God, God, how can you be in control when such terrible things happen? What days are we living? And that was the question I asked. I was watching the television on my own, because it's a late night show. Nobody's interested in it. My family were all in bed. I'm watching this review. And in that moment, I felt God say, do you know what, Robin? These are days that my servants have lived through and worked through since the beginning of time. These are like Elijah days, because I asked Elijah to stand in the midst of a generation that did not know God.
They weren't listening.
They weren't even listening. They were worshiping all other gods, any other god. I remember in Kings, where Elijah actually complains that he was the last of the prophets. He thought it was down to him and there was no one else. And God said, no, you've got to stand up in the face of great persecution and in facing people who will laugh at you, and declare that there is only one God. And that thing began to unfold on my sofa, on my couch, in my home. And I thought, well, these are the days, fulfilling the righteousness of Moses. We're under grace, we're not under law. But, Christ said, look, your righteousness has got to be better than the Pharisees, greater than the Pharisees. And that these were days of restoring worship and praise. In Ireland at that time, the new wave of worship songs had really just got going. We were a little bit behind everything. And there was a real sense of God saying, look, this is how we want to, this is how you should live your lives. This is how you should be. You should be a worshiping community, a worshiping nation, if you like. And those ideas just came together. And finally, it was a song of hope, which is why the little chorus goes, behold, he comes, riding and in the clouds and shining like the sun, and at the trumpet call. And that sense of whatever things look like, we're called to be a witness and to declare his name to this generation, and always with the knowledge of the hope of his return. And so the song was that. I know, I mean, like everything that God does, lots of folks from the Messianic congregations, they love the song, and they can see prophetic parallels in it. And I sometimes am a little bit nervous at saying, actually, I wrote it while I was watching television, because it doesn't quite, it's not the
But the reality
story.
is you were looking at the world situation.
I was. That's what grasped my heart. I was
Yeah.
looking at a world that was in calamity and still is in calamity, and just the sense that no, God is watching over, in control, and you and I are the instrument for Him to reach this world, and we have got to not despair. There's no need for us to despair, because it's a gospel of hope and certainty and security and a future. I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. You know.
Well, this is our Jubilee year.
Yes,
at
wonderful. I like
Crossroads.
that now.
50th birthday.
So I'll have to make a special effort to do the song, and with Crossroads in mind. You know.
You have a new CD.
I do indeed. Yes.
Fly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'm very pleased with it.
Inspiration. Emphasis.
Do you know something? Inspiration from the world, again, very much. I mean, the song Fly itself, I had, like everyone, we go through problems, difficulties, good times, bad times. I had some difficulties just a year or two ago that I was trying to work through with some people, some relational things, trying to restore some stuff that had been broken, trying to help repair some relationships, which is always a dangerous place to go, because you get a sense that I can fix this, and relationships are difficult, and I find myself in a difficult place, and I don't know, sometimes when you try and get in between people when they've fallen out, suddenly you become the one that takes the blame. And so a lot of things were happening, and I just got a real sense from God, and in the midst of everything, where can I go from His presence? If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the earth, even there, if I delve right into the depths of the earth, even there you're with me. And the song came out of that sense that God never leaves us, never abandons us, is always with us in the midst of every circumstance. And so a lot of the songs are little sort of celebrations of the life and the world and where we are and what He's done for us, and just lifting up His name again.
And it is live from Ireland,
Yes,
like
it is.
one of my favorites, Revival in Belfast.
Yeah.
What's the spiritual climate these days?
Do you know, I think it's pretty good, because of the troubles, because of what happened to us, those 35 to 40 years of just, inter-community strife. I think that threw a lot of people back on their church. We still have a big church attending population, threw a lot of people back on their faith. When times are good, as the Bible tells us, when things are great, people forget about God. And sometimes when things are difficult, those are the times when we suddenly remember, that we can go to Him and seek solace and comfort, strength and advice, that He's there for us. And so I think that helped us as a community. And so we're still growing. The church is still growing. We still have a sizable community passionate for the gospel. Some people think, I don't know, some people think it's almost like a re-Patrick time. In Patrick's Day, of course.
St. Patrick.
Well, in Patrick's Day, paganism ran right across Europe from the east way out to the west until it hit Ireland. And then the monks in Ireland began pushing back, spiritually and with a spirit to bring the gospel right across Europe, and you had a restoration. And some folks feel that it's almost similar, that the march of secularism now, as we call it, is right across Europe, and now it's Ireland's become much more of a secular nation than it ever was in its entire history. And maybe there's a day coming, that's what we pray, God will restore and revive, and that similar monastic sort of desire to see Europe restored and to see people come to Christ again. And we're praying for revival in the land, and we're hoping for it. And maybe these are the days of Elijah, and taking that worship and taking that praise and taking that message to a continent.
Well, before we let this good man away, I want to know about your family.
Oh, yes.
Tell us about them. Any other musicians in the family?
Yeah, my son, actually all three. I've three children. My wife, of course, and Jacqueline, and the three children. I have a girl, my daughter. She taught herself piano. She's not naturally a musician, but she enjoys music. She's a doctor now, actually, in Glasgow, and working in the Royal Infirmary at the minute in Glasgow, a big hospital there in Scotland. And my son, the middle son, he's the most musical of the three. David, he plays actually in the church worship band. He's led worship in a service we have called a cafe service, which is really nice. It's church with coffee and donuts. I can't think of anything better, actually. But
so there's a full-time member of the Mark family in your local church.
There's a guy, yes,
Okay.
working away, and he's playing bass guitar for some of the other guys. He's doing a great job. And then my youngest one is James, and he's a sportsman in the family. But he's carrying out, he actually does children's work with the church. And he's a musical guy as well. He's not so interested in learning instruments and stuff like that at the minute, anyway. But he's a man that likes to sort of sing around the place. If you ever hear someone singing a tune in our home somewhere, it's usually James. So so it's good. There's a new generation of Marks coming up and making an impact and being part of our church. That's a real gift from God. I love it.
Robin, you are in a ministry that is contentious at times.
All right. Yes, it is.
Hard to please all the people all the time. Do you see a new wave coming in Christian worship?
Do you know, I do. I think I've been thinking about this because times are changing and they continue to change because God orchestrates change in His church to make it more healthy and to make it more impactful. And I think this is a new day. I think that there will be more songs raised up in the individual local churches, that there will be a song of worship. We got a word in our church at the beginning of the year that God was raising up a new song in our church. And the sense being that it wasn't that the old was to be set aside or what had gone before was to be forgotten about, but that we were to build on that foundation. And that songs would raise up in the individual churches. And I think there'll be less of this, you know, the global phenomenon of great songs that are sung by everywhere. They'll still exist. There'll still be those that can minister in that way and they'll be picked up. But I think one of the exciting things, and I think God's going to restore and build up worship in individual communities, individual churches. And that sense of worship and understanding what we're called for can't do anything but impact the community that they live in. So that's my sense of what's happening. I think less of the superstar type thing and more of the local church and the individuals actually just striving to give God the glory.
Inspiring.
Wow.
Well, let me say, please keep making noise,
Oh, yes,
Mr. Noise Consultants,
yes,
will you?
Yes, that's right. I will do that. I
Because
will
we
do
love
that.
it.
Thank you very much indeed, Moira. Thank you.